You guys may or may have not heard, worlds did collide in the last week in the WWE universe. NXT and AAA, newly acquired WWE Lucha Libre worldwide promotion in Mexico, did a cross promotion in a way to introduce that brand into the universe, and they used NXT to do it. They had a little back and forth. We're going to take a look at that. I want to talk a little bit about how that went, how the product went, and some of the quick results, but just overall thoughts. I'm your host, Bryan, the Hype Ballard, back at it again. This is Tap Out Talk. We get the quick opening introduction to both the Mexican and the national anthem, a little ceremony being sang. Triple H and HBK on hand in the ring for the ceremony being carried out. Conan and Corey Graves on the commentating for the action tonight. And then we kick things off with the greatest luchador to ever grace the ring. Rey Mysterio is out to warm up the crowd, get them all ready and excited for the show. I think if they bought the ticket, they're probably already excited, but it was a nice touch to have Rey. Rey is now playing the Hall of Famer ambassador of the WWE. I think he's got one last match in him, but ultimately, he does have that moment. We get into the first matchup, a little short card tonight, but it's a 2.5 hour show. It did not, as I say, overstay its welcome. The opening match, Aerostar, Octagon Jr., and Mr. Iguana. I know it sounds ridiculous, versus the LWO. Ultimately, Mr. Iguana was the one that everybody's talking about in the last week. Everybody says he stole the show and he made an opportunity. But I gotta ask, is that good for the WWE? Mr. Iguana, if you haven't seen him, he looks a little bit like Gold Dust, but green. And he carries a stuffed animal iguana with him. He's got a unique little luchador style. He has something that makes him unique. Shout out to the LWO for also putting over the stuffed animal iguana in the match as if it's a kind of a realistic character. Reminds me of Santino Morello and the Cobra a little bit. But they actually had a really good, fun matchup. A lot of great high spots, a lot of luchador classic style. Very exciting. I do ask, though, Mr. Iguana is going to go right to the main roster because the WWE sees that money. And they say we can sell stuffed animal iguanas to kids, official merchandise. Is that best for business? Maybe in the financial side of it, but is it best for business overall? Will the fans, I look at and they run the risk of pushing a Mr. Iguana and then the fans getting burnt out too quick on it. So I do look and I say it has to be done quickly and stunts. Don't just milk the cash cow with all of its milk and then just take it off to the butcher shop. I do think there is an appeal of a younger audience to him. I would like to see maybe even the idea of a Mr. Iguana giving out a stuffed Mr. Iguana to a kid in the crowd. I think that would be a nice touch. I don't know if the WWE will think of things like that, but giving out, like Bret Hart used to do with the sunglasses. And then as a kid, you're like, I want a pair of Bret Hart sunglasses. I'm going to go to the WWE magazine. WWE shop could have the Mr. Iguanas. They probably already have them up. Dragon Lee, Cruz del Toro, and Lince Dorado for the LWO. Octagon del Toro start us off. Conan and Graves give us a little background on the AAA with Conan repeatedly saying that they're hoping to impress the WWE and earn contracts. Well, they've already bought the promotion, so they inherit all the contracts. Lince and Mr. Iguana tag in, and they do a chain wrestling standoff. I will say the crowd definitely, again, over with Mr. Iguana, and he was the talk of the night. He plays dead after taking some offense and then goes to collect his iguana. And then he's even more. The crowd is loving it. We get a little Aerostar. You guys remember Aerostar? Aerostar is a fun one from Lucha Underground and from AEW. We get a lot of names that you may have seen in other promotions. The two gives us our first taste of the overall high-flying action. Then we get all three taking on Mr. Iguana at one point in the match. And the stuffed animal, I should say. And then ultimately we do hit Octagon hitting a moonsault fallaway slam on Lince Dorado to get the finish. Octagon Jr., Aerostar, and Mr. Iguana defeat Dragon Lee, Cruz del Toro, and Lince Dorado. Cruz del Toro had a fun match. I'm not used to seeing fun, high talent, kind of fun matches out of him. I'm used to the kind of cookie cutter style, and I really enjoyed his lucha style. And I hope that's more of things to come for him, because it really did help him stand out being in this style of matchup. Post-match, we do get Dirty Dom Mysterio gets on the mic. From the seats, he was watching ringside, and he calls out Octagon for being Rey Mysterio fans. And then for that, he says that he will challenge Octagon that night at Money in the Bank. I like that match at Money in the Bank as well. You guys can see the review there. But ultimately, I do like the idea that, you know, Dirty Dom Mysterio could be one of the enemies of the Luchadors, Chad Gable being the other. I do see maybe we get a classic Survivor Series elimination matchup with Luchadors versus anti-Luchadors at Survivor Series. I would be excited to see that on the undercard. So maybe we can get a pairing of AAA versus Chad Gable, Dirty Dom Mysterio, among some others that maybe aren't as Luchador friendly. Let's get into the next match. We got Stephanie Vaquer versus Lola Vice versus Dalis versus Chick Tormenta. We get some nice little open action match, little tag match action. We get, I will say, I predicted in my predictions in the fans of pro wrestling chat, perfect on Worlds Collide. I did see that they're not going to allow Stephanie Vaquer and Lola Vice to take a loss. It's easier for them to get a win here, and a quick win they did after doing a dual Devil's Kiss on Tormenta. But ultimately, we do get some good moments. We get Lola Vice. I like Lola Vice. I like Lola Vice's style. I ultimately thought a Lola Vice could ultimately be a women's tag champion. I would like to see maybe a Zelina Vega and a Lola Vice. They got that, you know, spicy attitude. I also thought at one point, I thought maybe Shayna Baszler would have been a, you know, possible opponent slash thing for Lola Vice. But ultimately, I do see a tag match in her future, and I can see her really thriving as a tag team champion. Stephanie Vaquer, we got a lot of potential with her. You guys are very familiar with her stuff over in Stardom. But ultimately, Vaquer and Lola Vice beat Chick Tormenta and Dalis to get the pinfall. Vera Rodriguez is the interviewer of the night. Think of her as the Renee Paquette of the Lucha. She is interviewing everyone. Somebody told me that she's actually Finn Balor's wife. Yeah, leave that in the comments if you know. I did not fact check that one, but I did hear that. So ultimately, we do get the win, the right win for Team NXT. And speaking of teams, we got the fans of ProWrestling.com, all kinds of great talent over there. Check out the webpage. Check us out on Twitter. We got all kinds of interactions with you guys. We got live chats where you guys can chime in. We've got Legado del Fantasma versus El Hijo de Dr. Wagner, Pagano, and Psycho Clown. Not knowing too much about these generational type wrestlers, the Psycho Clown, Pagano, but I do know Legado. Legado is getting the win here. They announced that they're representing WWE. There's one thing I will say that I did not like that they did with Legado del Fantasma tonight is they conditioned the audience. As fans, you and myself, we were being conditioned by the WWE. And they did it on a small stage tonight, and they did a little bit more. And what they're doing is they're conditioning you to have advertising on the WWE superstars' attires. They did it tonight with a little WWE patch. They made Santos Escobar actually cut a promo about the patch prior to this matchup. And then the patch was prominently displayed, very small, on their outfits, on their camo uniforms. Nothing big with it being a very small patch, but these are the seeds that grow into multi advertisements. And then I don't want my WWE to be race car and NASCAR drivers or UFC MMA. And it's different with UFC MMA because when they get sponsors, those are the guys that are paying for their, in NASCAR, the cars, they're paying for their outfit, they're paying for their training in UFC. That's going actually to the talent. The WWE using these sponsorships, it's not going straight to the talent that wears them. It's going ultimately to the WWE bank. So despite that, we were conditioned a little bit to get used to the idea of stars wearing patches and other things on their outfits. But I digress. We got the announce team explaining, again, the talents of this matchup. Another fun-paced matchup. I enjoy the Luchadors' different masks. I enjoy Psycho Clown's mask. I like the tongue sticking out. I think it's very unique. But it was a fun matchup, but the right winner did get the win. We do get a little Eddie Guerrero nod, but ultimately we get Escobar. We get a Super Rana, but Santos can only get a 2 count. And then he finally hits the Phantom Driver on Wagner and a big knee for the 1-2-3. Legado del Fantasma defeats the trio from AAA to get the win. So Legado del Fantasma, there you can see the patch once again. Standing tall, WWE going up 2-1 in the night's event. We then get to the next matchup was Ethan Page versus Javon Evans from NXT versus Rey Fenix and Laredo Kid of Luchador descent. With championship matchup, Ethan Page looking to defend his North American championship and steal a win. Ultimately, we get all 4 gentlemen in the ring at one point, fighting, dueling, lots of action. We get a crazy moment with a Canadian destroyer from Laredo Kid onto Evans. Basically, we get a DDT destroyer from Kid onto Rey Fenix. Evans tries to go coast to coast with a kick on Phoenix, but doesn't quite get all of it. Ultimately, then we get Javon Evans hawking up. We do get Page hitting the Ego's Edge on Evans. He lands on his back to break up the pin. The finish, actually, we've seen Evans hit his OG cutter on Laredo, only to get thrown out by Page and get the quick pin. And he gets a grin, and he's out. 1, 2, 3. Ethan Page steals another title defense at Worlds Collide. Guys, thank you. Hitting the like button, sharing, subscribing. Just, you know, what you guys do every day for me. Talk wrestling. I love it. It's good stuff. Let's move ahead. Chad Gable versus Vikingo. Vikingo, you guys might remember from AEW fame if you didn't watch Lucha. Ultimately, we get Chad Gable, one of the top enemies of the Luchadors, as I mentioned. We ultimately get a main event. I never thought I'd see a main event with Chad Gable in it, and we got that tonight. Chad Gable cutting a promo pre-match, talking about how he loves Mexico, talking about how he's a big supporter of Coffee Grande Americana. But they ultimately trade holds. And I will say, Chad Gable did a great job tonight making Vikingo look like a very big star. Like, he did a lot of the gelling of his style of wrestling mixed with the luchador style. Chad Gable was basically Chad Gable. Sometimes it is hard for me to get past the Chad Gable gimmick. It's hard for me to, you know, imitation Kurt Angle, imitation Team Angle, Charlie Haas, you know, those kind of things. But he did a good job, and he's doing a good job with what he is given, and he's making a lot of it work with the El Americano, with Chad Gable, etc. So I got to shout out to him. We get a senton at one point. We also get a lot of spots and bumps in this matchup. We get one moment on the apron where we get Chad Gable hitting a Canadian destroyer and then bam, right into the apron onto the side of the ring. Very, very brutal. That got me up out of my seat. But ultimately, we get the 630 splash to end, and Vikingo defeats Chad Gable to retain his championship at AAA, Mega Championship. And ultimately, everybody comes to the ring very briefly to celebrate. WWE cut it off pretty quick. It was on YouTube Live. You guys can watch this whole show on YouTube. But ultimately, it was very quick, and we got a lot of stars we didn't even really know much about in the ring from tonight's events. But it was very quick, and we didn't have much time to look at them as it went right off the air. I will say, though, Vikingo did a good job. He is, a smaller wrestler, but very talented. He's definitely, a good representation of the Lucha family there, as you guys see. But let's get into the final thoughts. And here they are. Final thoughts. Worlds collide, and they did at NXT / AAA. I like what the WWE did with this. They did let Worlds Collide and AAA get the slight edge on NXT, but it was a very tight race, and that's what they wanted to look at. I do ask, what is good in the future with this? What is the WWE going to do with this brand and promotion they bought down in, Mexico? I do wonder, is it just going to be NXT Mexico level? It's never going to be in the main roster, but it's like the minor leagues of Mexico, just like the NXT is the minor leagues of the United States. I wonder if the WWE is slowly going to buy other territories and create them as development territories, eliminating the indies. This is a great opportunity for another company to really step up, though, as the WWE is not quite doing everything correctly in their process in the modern day, and it's a great opportunity if they wanted to grab the brass ring. We'll talk about that on the Wrestling Fans Insight at some point. But I'm going to go ahead and head out. Those are my results and thoughts. It was a good 2 hours. It was quick. It was fun. It got in. It got out. Just like I am right now. I'm out.